Hi, this is Mike Power, President and CEO of Silver Range Resources, and this is an update on our Roughrider property. First, a quick word from our lawyers. Roughrider is in Esmeralda County, about 56 kilometers southwest of Goldfield. It's accessible via county roads and then some 4x4 trails. Here's the claim situation as of March 2022. We're on BLM land and there are no surface impairments. This area has a long mining history. Mexican-American miners were in here in the 1840s, and then in the 1870s, Chinese miners came in following the completion of the railways. Hard rock prospecting began in the 1880s and 90s. One of the early prospectors in the area was Jack Longstreet, who was looking for the famed lost Breyfogle mine. In 1906, Henry Stimler, one of the two founders of Goldfield, led a rush to Roosevelt Canyon. He was promoting the placer potential, and he also was looking at hard rock further down. He built a 3-stamp mill, the remains of which are still in the canyon on the Roughrider property. Finally, in the 1980s, we're not exactly sure of the date, but probably during the Hunt Brothers silver rush, there was a small heap leach operation set up on the property. Roughrider's in the Walker Lane. This is a fault zone that extends from north of Reno down to Las Vegas. It's currently active with about a ½ inch of displacement annually. Most of the faults in the Walker Lane trend northwest, and then there's subordinate north to north-northeast trending faults, one of which you'll see is on the Roughrider property. The Walker Lane is famous for high-grade gold and silver deposits, including the Comstock lode up here, Tonopah, noted for silver, Goldfield for gold. Here's the silicon deposit near Beatty that Anglo recently declared a resource on, and here's Round Mountain, probably the largest epithermal deposit in the world. So this is a great place to go look for high-grade gold and silver. Roughrider is located in the Jurassic Sylvania pluton. This is a large granodiorite to diorite intrusion that extends from California all the way to Gold Point over here. It's overlain in part by some very old rocks, roof pendants of Cambrian rock, and some younger Quaternary deposits, but most of the bedrock in this area here is entirely granodiorite. Now, the interesting thing about it is that in this region, there are very few faults mapped, but there is one structural feature here that was mapped on a regional scale that runs through the claims. And if we look at the aeromagnetic signature, it's quite interesting to note that the Roughrider claim block lies on a prominent bend in the regional aeromagnetic field, likely indicating some deep-seated structure in the Sylvania pluton, which produced most of this magnetic high you see here. At the property scale, here's the Roughrider property, we've been able to map this fracture zone that shows up here. It's a zone of shears, veins, faults that runs for about 1,800 meters from the bottom end of the Roughrider block off to the northwest. And there's a prominent dog leg in it here. And it's probably not a big surprise to find that all the historic workings, mine workings, are located along this fracture system that we mapped at property scale. The fracture system's here in green, and you can see the mine working symbols here lying above it. And here's the stamp mill that was used to process the ore that came out of these little mines. Here's some photos of what's left. You can see Henry Stilmer's early 1900s mill on the left. It was the remains of the 3-stamp mill. And the property is dotted with numerous underground workings, an example of which is shown to its right. In 1974, Sunshine Mining did a quick visit to the property, and on a portion of the property they documented a couple of adits for over 2,000 feet, 3 shafts for 500 feet, and hundreds of feet of sublevels and stopes. In the 1980s, there was a small heap leach operation set up on the property, likely for silver, and it's at the north end of the workings. What we find interesting is we haven't been able to find any drill pads on the property to date, so it doesn't look like it's been extensively drilled, if at all. Well, let's have a look at rock sample results, and all the samples you're going to see here were collected at or around the historic workings. Now, this is a silver property, so let's start with silver. And you can see some pretty high-grade samples here. The best we've collected to date is 4320 grams from the workings up in the northeast, but you can see there are also numerous other high-grade silver samples over a couple hundred grams. There is some gold. Strangely enough, the best gold sample we got was from a composite grab from the heap leach pad, so that was a bit of a head scratcher. There's a lot of copper associated with the mineralization. You can see here up to a couple percent, and a lot of lead. Not shown here is one sample came back 11% lead, so it has a distinctly polymetallic signature. Here's what the mineralization looks like. You can see a quartz vein here in the back of one of the drifts, and it's in heavily altered country rock, sericite alterations surrounding the vein, and other clays. The veins are mostly quartz, ribbon quartz. A common accessory is this peculiar yellow mineral, which we believe is either pyromorphite, mimetite, or freedite. If you hit this with a niton gun, you get very high analyses in copper, arsenic, and lead, and as well as carrying some silver. So this is what we think this is. You see the character of the quartz here; it's fairly coarse grained. We haven't seen any primary sulfides, and our preliminary conclusion is we're probably looking at mesothermal style mineralization. We did a bit of soil sampling in the northern part of the property last year, and we found that it worked fairly well. Silver probably provides the best results and the best pathfinder. You can see here the known historic workings on the north side of the property. We didn't sample over these because there's so much disturbed ground, but you can see that we get silver results trending off trend, suggests to us that soil sampling might be a useful technique in finding the extension of the mineralization. For example, at this north showing, we feel quite sure that it wraps around and then joins the up with the structures that we mapped further to the south. So soils seem to work here, and there'll be a tool in our toolbox. So that's it. The year ahead, we hope to do some geologic mapping to unravel the structure along this 1,800 meter long shear fault zone. It controls the mineralization. The better we understand it, the more better place we'll be to figure out where there might be more. We'd like to do some systematic sampling. There's some numerous workings on the property not shown in the diagrams I put up earlier, and we'd like to get in them and see what the tenor of the mineralization the old timers were working on might be. We'd like to do some selective soil sampling. It appears to be a useful tool for connecting the zones in areas of overburden. And finally, we'd like to do some trenching to open up a little more of the mineralization. And we think by the time we're finished all this, we'll have some great drill targets. So stay tuned.